Inceptors are gravis armored space marines wielding very fancy jetpacks that let them fly around despite the bulk of their armor, and equipped with close range firepower. They fill a role of close support in the space marines and tend to be quite valued for their ingenuity in ways to deploy. Hello everybody, my name is Spoonsrat, and today we are covering the Inceptors of the Space Marines, a classic primaris unit coming out in their first box. The Inceptor squad comes in at 120 points for 3 or 240 points for 6. They move 10 inches, so quite fast. Their toughness 6, so very resilient small arms, with a 3+ save and 3 wounds. Leadership 6+ and OC1 is fairly standard aside from that. They're very pricey per model. In terms of ranged weapons, they come standard with the assault bolters, which are sustained hits to pistol, twin, assault, and they are 18-inch range, with 3 attacks that hit on 3s that are strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2. The plasma exterminators are the alternate option. They are pistol assault and twin linked at 18-inch range. They have 2 attacks that hit on 3s, strength 7, AP 2, and damage 2. So it's nice they have damage 2 even when they don't overcharge. And when they do overcharge, they go up to strength 8, AP 3, and damage 3. So very good for blowing up things like gravis marines and terminators. In terms of melee weapons, they just have a close combat weapon, which is 3 attacks that hit on 3s at strength 4, AP 0, and damage 1. Nothing special, but in a pinch they can box some guardsmen alright. In terms of abilities, Deep Strike is their core ability, and then their main ability is the Meteoric Descent. When this unit is selected to deploy from Deep Strike, it can perform a Meteoric Descent. If they do, they can be set up anywhere that is further than 6 inches from enemy models. This is pretty nice, as it makes it much harder to screen this unit out, though units like Infiltrators will still block their attempts. Overall, this is very, very useful since their weapons are so close range, though, of course, you could also deploy them somewhere with rapid ingress and then have them fly out from cover to blow up some infantry. In terms of unit comp, it's pretty standard: 1 sergeant and then 2 to 5 inceptors. Every model is equipped with assault bolters and close combat weapons. In terms of keywords, they have infantry, gravis, fly, and jump pack. And then every model may replace their assault bolters with plasma exterminators. Let's move on to their admittedly very slim pickings in terms of buffing options. Starting off, the Primarchs can give them buffs, Guilliman can give them free strats, and Lion can offer mortal wound protection when they're nearby, though of course that may be a very big if they are nearby. The Storm Speeder can give them +1 to wound, or +1 to hit, or whatever it may be. Against vehicles, though, is the main thing. And that is actually a very nasty buff on both weapons. Funnily enough, the Assault Bolters still put up great damage against tanks. And then the Incursors can give them +1 to hit, which is especially nice for the Assault Bolters, so they can fish for 6s more comfortably when they are re-rolling their attacks, preferably if they're attacking the Oath of Moment target. The Storm Speeder buff is redundant if you're playing a non-Divergent chapter, keep that in mind. Moving on to detachments, of course, we're covering all the core ones. Gladius gives them Advance and Shoot, which is handy if they want to start... actually, no, it isn't. They have Assault. What am I talking about? Advance and Charge could be handy, again, if you deploy them with Rapid Ingress, and then they jump out, shoot at them. If they're not dead, they could finish off the target, maybe. Anvil Siege Force, they generally don't want to sit around and get +1 to hit, so not much specific for them. Iron Storm, the special rule for them is handy enough, just giving them a reroll, and they make a good utility unit that's fast-moving for your generally slow-moving tanks. The Firestorm gives you extra strength, which is very good on the Assault Bolters, and the Plasma Exterminators appreciate it against Space Marines as well, so they don't have to overcharge to wound them on 2s. Storm Lance gives you Advance and Charge, which is decently handy, if they Rapid Ingress especially, and you could get sustained hits on the Plasma Guns for a command point. And then Vanguard gives you extra durability at range, but again, given their short range and roll, they probably won't have that very often. They don't get anything from First Company, and unfortunately they have no access to any characters, let alone librarians, so they cannot get much from Librarius Discipline. Moving on to the Divergent chapters. Now, interestingly, these guys do in fact lack Deathwing or Ravenwing. They could shoot back at enemies in Unforgiven Task Force, but that's only if there's enough models to survive, really. Useful on a botched Overwatch, maybe. Black Templars gives you a Feel No Pain or an Invulnerable, which are very much appreciated for a little bit extra durability, and they bring in some solid close support for a mainly melee army. Blood Angels makes their melee quite decent, actually, especially against medium armored infantry, and light armored infantry, I should say. And in Angelic Host, they could be jumping around the board to bully infantry more effectively with their guns, which is always fun, if not very frustrating for your opponent. And then we also have the Space Wolves, which is very similar to the Black Templars. They can get a Feel No Pain, which is nice, and they offer good utility on the front line and in the enemy back line, which could be useful, especially against durable armies where it may take a few turns for your Space Wolves to chew through their wall of screens, so that's something to keep in mind. For example, if you're fighting Custodes, they could definitely have a nice place there. Overall, I think that none of these are particularly standout, but I don't think they're necessarily awful in any of them either. We're going to move on to their competition, which there isn't a whole lot for these guys specifically. The first one that comes to mind is Jump Pack Intercessors, because, well, they're both fast-moving, mainly utility units with decent anti-infantry damage. These guys definitely beat them on the damage front, but the Jump Pack Intercessors beat them on the durability front significantly, just because you get more of them for much cheaper. So if you just want cheap, tough speed, it's hard to go wrong with the Jump Intercessors, but for a specialized purpose, the Inceptors definitely have a very solid role, because of course you can simply deep strike in close and then light up a unit. And of course their range damage is significantly better than the Jump Pack Intercessors, who have effectively no range damage. I also wouldn't mind mentioning Outriders, which kind of complete a similar thing but very differently. Their melee is also very good, and they're very fast moving, of course, but without fly and deep strike. They're more useful if you want an on-the-board, turn-one kind of utility unit, because the Outriders do excel in that flanking role, where they're very good at punching enemies that tend to take a similar position, and also their damage output at range is fine enough for clearing out a little bit of a horde, just thanks to all the twin bolt rifles and the potential of an ATV being with them. Overall, though, I think all of these units are rather solid, so again, it's sort of, whatever you need them for, there's a role for all three, definitely, to be sure. Moving on to the best use section, Inceptors, again, Primaris Marines are simple. They're meant to be, they were made to make Space Marines as simple as possible to play because they're almost everyone's starter army. But I think the Inceptors are pretty solid. Their damage output is very savage, especially against 2-wound infantry. Sustained hits 2 is just like the greatest rule ever. And with 6-inch Deep Strike, they generally can drop on whatever target they want and just light them up and do a lot of damage. Between the two, a Bolter or a Plasma, I generally prefer the Bolters, but I don't think there's that much in it, just because it's pretty standard. You get less, more powerful shots with the Plasma, or you get a lot more, less powerful shots with the Bolters, and you get sustained hits too, which is just super fun. They tear through Space Marines just with no issue, and with Oath of Moment, they can be very general purpose, thanks to +1 to wound, and also just for the fact that they're rerolling all their hits and all their wounds, because they're both twin-linked, which is very useful. Generally, I would deploy them in Deep Strike, but if you're not going to, they're very fragile, just points-wise, so keep them somewhere where, a unit isn't going to get a good line of sight on them, and then turn 2 onwards, just have them fly around, or with Deep Strike, drop on your opponent's home field, steal their home field objective off of the unit, because chances are they'll just get blown away, and you're eating good. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!